the box scores.
Box scores in bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball box scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box scores in bourbon.
Boys and girls, welcome back. We are here with another episode of your favorite Box Scores and Bourbon podcast. Welcome back. We are going to be baseball-centric today. We're going to get into the forecast for the rest of the season and also the fallout of the MLB trade deadline. And with that, the first pitch. How important is it that your team win the trade deadline? Meaning you went out, your team got the best player that was on the market. How much of an impact does that actually make in your team winning the World Series? Well, going back to 2022, if you're the Padres, not so much. The Astros won that World Series, and they got a combined Trey Mancini, Christian Vasquez, and Will Smith out of their trades. And then in 2023, 2024, not really anything to be considered the go-getter. But 2023, the Rangers, who they get? Max Scherzer. End up pitching games 3, game 7 in the ALCS, and then game 3 in the World Series. Rangers eventually World Series champions. In 2004, it was, of course, the Dodgers winning the World Series. And then in 2005, the big name, Mason Miller, going to the Padres. But alas, it was the Dodgers winning the World Series. Now, if your team did not do what you thought they would do, it's not a big deal. Don't sweat it. Baseball's a fluky sport. Hell, the Dodgers just got Tarek Skubal, and now that they're in the midst of a 6-game losing streak. Tarek Skubal looked pretty good, but we'll see what happens with the Dodgers moving forward. And you got a team like the Brewers, who were aiming for the number 1 seed in the NL. And what did they do? Jack squat. They got added at the fringes like I thought they would. And then you got teams like the Yankees, who had a golden opportunity laid at their feet in order to do something big. And what did they do? Well, I mean, they improved at shortstop, I guess. And then the Rays, and then the Astros, and then the White Sox, and then the Padres, the Diamondbacks. The list goes on and on and on. The point is, yes, in the recent past, it seems as if you get the big name, then you may end up going to win the World Series. But that doesn't mean that your team, even if they got the big name, won't go on and have major success when it comes to getting in the playoffs and moving forward far. So, with that said, let's break down the trade deadline. Let's dig in to see exactly how each team did and then make a projection. Let's play a game called Who's Going the Furthest, based on which team got who on Monday. Manny, let's cheers each other in.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers, JB.
Clink, clink.
That first sip always smacks you right on the top of the palate, but man, it's so good.
Welcome back, so JB. Here, even a frosted glass isn't going to stop this from being higher than room temperature.
Oh, don't you like? I believe you are the man that told me nothing hits better than a warm glass of whiskey on a 100-degree weather day, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's jump right into this episode, JB. Let's talk about the trades. I listened to your, what is it, a 2 a.m. Skubal analysis, the Dodgers getting Skubal.
Mm-hmm. I did do that, yes. For those who have not been paying attention, I did stay up until 2:30 in the morning, Saturday, going into 2:30 in the morning, Sunday morning.
Yep.
Having to get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work and have a team workout at 6:30 in the morning, which absolutely just kicked my butt.
Yeah.
I got 3 hours of sleep, all to do an episode on Tarek Skubal going to the Dodgers.
First off, I don't recommend you do that again because you were hitting the delusional phase during the morning workout. But I know there was a lot on your mind and you had to get it all off your chest. So
Absolutely.
There was a lot to take away from what you had said, especially when it comes to the future of baseball in the league and what that's going to mean for the lockout and fans and how they should feel about the Dodgers getting yet another really good player and whether they should feel like it's unfair. There's a lot to unpack there, and I think we can unpack a little bit more of that during today's episode. Of course, we won't do a deep dive into the Skubal trade because it's already you already covered a lot of that base. And if anybody wants to hear it, if anybody wants to hear the full deep breakdown that JB did, go ahead and check out Spotify and YouTube.
Go check out JB After Hours.
Yeah, there you go.
Call it JB's Last Call. That's what I should have called it. JB's Last Call.
Yeah. But let me give you my quick 2 cents on the Skubal trade. When it first happened, I think I just responded to you as it was happening, and I just said, "Gee, damn it!" I was a little disappointed that Skubal ended up going to the Dodgers because, of course, the Dodgers would be the one team to get the biggest poker chip on the market during the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
But then I sat back and I started reflecting. I vented to you a little bit over the weekend about the fairness of the trade itself. But truly, if you sit back and think about what this trade means for baseball, you can't be mad at the Dodgers. Even me as a Yankees fan, which I don't necessarily have any kind of favoritism or any kind of anything for the Dodgers. I can't be mad at the Dodgers for doing this kind of move. They did a trade that any team could have pulled off. They traded 3 prospects. Other teams traded 2 or 3 prospects for somebody of lesser value than Skubal. And any team could have tried doing 4 prospects, trying to do a lot of different trades for the Dodgers, or for what the Dodgers did. Now, the reason I say I can't get mad at the Dodgers is because they're operating really within the boundaries that the collective bargaining agreement allow them to do. We can't sit here and say the Dodgers are doing this quote-unquote cheating or this unfair buying of players when these are the rules that the Players Association agreed to and the owners agreed to many years ago when they decided that this is how they wanted to operate the league and however long the collective bargaining agreement was at the time. So they're doing what they are told. You can do this. So why would anybody be mad about the fact that they're doing what every team could be doing? Now, you could say the Dodgers are just throwing out money and quote-unquote they're buying another championship. But if that were the case, we wouldn't be looking at the Mets as at the very bottom of their league because they also throw money at players and they don't get it right any of the times. You have to give the Dodgers. Yeah, exactly. They've thrown money every single time and they can't get it right, and then they end up selling all those players and they have all this dead money. So it's not as easy as throwing money and throwing prospects to another team and to get a really good team. It takes a lot of good trades and being smart about how you're going to build a team for it to really work out. So I really can't get mad about that. And the last thing that I'll say on that is, at the end of the day, and you've said this on your monologue or even on the Skubal recap, Skubal's really, they traded 3 prospects for 2 months of Skubal's services. He's not under contract. They don't have a team option that they could keep him under. If for some reason something went haywire, something went sideways, the Dodgers could be out with 3 of their top 10 prospects and have nothing to show for it come next season. And wouldn't be the first time that something like that's happened. I believe I'm not wrong when I recall the Juan Soto trade to the Yankees where they thought they were going to sign him. He ended up going to the Mets. Like, anything can happen with this player. So it's not necessarily a done deal that now the Dodgers are going to have Skubal for a long-term deal. They're going to have to pay him a lot of money if they want to keep him. And even then, another team could still come by and offer them even more than what the Dodgers are willing to give him. He's going to ask for a lot. The Yankees, all these big market teams, they could offer a lot of money. And like I said, they could end up not having anything to show for it. So as much as I want to hate on the Dodgers, I don't have a reason to hate on them because they haven't done anything wrong. And this is even a long-term thing that you could say is an unfair thing that they've been doing. Would I have liked to see another team get some of those riches across the league? Sure. Would I have liked the Yankees to be more aggressive about the trade? Of course I would have. But that's the fan speaking of the fan side speaking to this. Pulling away the fandom of the Yankees and looking at it from just a baseball perspective, you really just have to say, well, this is more about the owners not wanting to lose as much money as they want to long term because they want to keep all that money in their pockets and they don't want to take the risk of what it will take to actually build and pay a worthwhile roster to win championships. So those are my thoughts on the Skubal trade.
Yeah, I want to revisit. So we're talking about, just a recap of Skubal, but really a recap of baseball over this. Let's go back to 24, okay? 2024 wasn't really a clear-cut big name. You had Jack Flaherty go to the Dodgers. Tanner Scott was arguably a bigger name, a reliever going from Miami to San Diego. And I want to focus on that 2024 NLDS. And really more so how fickle the game of baseball is. And 2024 NLDS, Padres hold a 2-1 lead over the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And Mike Schilt makes the bizarre, just off-the-wall decision, says, hey, Dylan Cease, you've never started on 3 days rest. Now's the perfect time. We are here to clinch. Let's throw you out there. And I get it. Look, it's the playoffs. You're doing everything you can to at least advance to the next round. Everybody is on the table. I'm sure even Dylan Cease said, yeah, Mike, put me in the game. I'm in.
Yeah.
24, I think it was 20. It was a ridiculous scoreless streak that the Dodgers pitching put on the Padres. The long story short, Dodgers win game 4, 8-0. Win game 5, 2-0. Yamamoto, Darvish, they go head to head. Dodgers win 2-0. They go on to win the World Series, beating the Yankees. That was one decision away from possibly being a rematch of the 98 World Series. Could have eventually been that. The Padres still had to go to the NLCS. Could have eventually been a rematch of the 98 World Series. And it could have been Padres-Yankees. Could have been that. But that's just one thing right there where another team made a decision, the Dodgers capitalized. 2025, okay? 2025 happens, and we end up Mason Miller, the big name, goes to the Padres. Eugenio Suarez goes to the Mariners. Mariners end up on the cusp of getting to the World Series. The Padres end up losing the wild card series to the Cubs 2-1, of course. But the Dodgers, you're in the World Series. There are 6, 7, maybe 8 plays that just, if one of them goes the Blue Jays' way, Blue Jays could have been the World Series champs.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is baseball is so fickle that the Dodgers, instead of going for the 3-peat, we could be sitting here right now, maybe not even talking about a Skubal trade to the Dodgers, but maybe even possibly, man, how bad are the Dodgers? How bad are they? They haven't even capitalized on all this money they spent. And then you look at the Mets. The Mets spent 2024, 2025, 2026, 2024, 2025, 2026, spent oodles of money on this roster. And then this year, probably one of the top sellers in baseball. Going to, every player going to every which region. So baseball's so fickle that no matter who you trade for at the deadline, whether it's I criticize the Brewers for adding at the fringes. They got Dustin May and JoJo Romero and Anthony Sanzatella, just adding at the fringes again. Well, the Astros did that in 2022. Now, the difference is that really the only player that had any impact on the Astros actually winning the World Series that year, I have a legitimate reason why, was Will Smith, the reliever, coming in, doing his thing. But really all the Astros did was add at the fringes. They added depth. That's what the Brewers did. Maybe that's enough. Maybe just adding at the fringes, maybe speaking to the team, maybe Pat Murphy's pocket pancakes actually do something this year, and it's a little little source of magic in order for them to go out there and maybe defeat the Dodgers in a probable NLCS this year, and then they advance to the World Series. The point is, no one knows. No one knows what's going to happen in this game. And the Dodgers in the midst of a 6-game losing streak right now, and I know everyone's freaking out. Look, the Dodgers didn't really have a down month yet. Every year, June, going into July, the Dodgers take their time. They just take the month off. Maybe this is the month they take off. Maybe they're taking off now just so they can rest, recoup, whatever it is they're going to do. I don't know what the Dodgers do. I have no clue. All I know is that the Dodgers are a pain in the neck when it comes to getting through the playoffs in order to get to the World Series. Yeah. And the Yankees, maybe all that's needed is having all of their starting pitchers come back. Mm-hmm. Maybe all that's needed is having Judge and Stanton and Belly come back to the lineup. I mean, getting Luis Garcia to play shortstop, he already paid dividends. Yeah. He already hit a game-winning homer for the Yankees. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, look, it's already working out for them. So, it's funny just how much people like to sit there and say, well, they won the deadline, they won big. I think the Cubs had a fantastic deadline. Do I think it's going to amount to anything? I hope it does. But this lineup is so streaky. When they're on, they're on. When they're off, they're off. And then I have no idea how Gausman and Clay Holmes are going to respond. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Edward Cabrera is going to look like when he comes back from injury. I don't know how this bullpen is going to be transformed when you put Colin Ray and Javier Assad. And then Ben Brown, if they end up bringing him back this year, or even Justin Steele. If Justin Steele comes back, what does he look like in the bullpen? I don't know. We don't know. And on the flip side of that, we talk about the Dodgers getting Skubal. And the one thing I didn't mention in my episode was, yes, the Dodgers gave up I think they gave up a pretty good load in order to get Skubal. Zaire Hope is a bona fide starter for the Tiger team. I wouldn't be surprised if Hope is with the Tigers by the end of this season, and of course starting the season on the big league roster for them coming. I mean, whenever the next season starts. River Ryan, he's often injured. I get it, but the dude knows how to pitch. He's got electric stuff. And Brady Smith, he's in low A, but this dude's strikeout numbers are astronomical. I mean, jump off the page. All this for 2 months of Tarek Skubal. Yeah. And so I don't blame Scott Harris for pulling the trigger on this. I don't blame the Dodgers for pulling the trigger on this. And if anyone wants to complain about the Dodgers getting him, why didn't the Brewers do it? Why didn't the Brewers just dig into their pot of a very well-run farm system, well-run organization, obviously. Matt Arnold not messing around over there. Why didn't the Brewers just go do that? Yeah. And so everyone complaining about the Dodgers getting them, they were the only ones that offered a deal that was suitable enough. Scott Harris accepted it. Now, I don't think Scott Harris is going to accept the trade, knowing full well that the Tigers actually still have a shot to win the AL Central this year. And I said in an earlier episode, the Tigers winning, whoever wins the AL Central, probably going to get a first-round bye. Because that AL West, as competitive as it is, it's just as much trash as the AL Central. I just think that the AL Central, the winner of the AL Central, is going to end up being the eventual second seed of the American League. Yeah. It's a probability. I don't know what the numbers are, but I could see it happening. Yeah. Both of those points I bring up all to the fact of just how fluky baseball is. Skubal could get hurt. I mean, they got Skubal because Shohei's not coming back to rotation. Mm-hmm. Yamamoto's been the only healthy portion of this rotation with Justin Robleski. And now Robleski may even find his way to the bullpen when it comes playoff time, because if all goes according to plan, Yoshi, Skubal, Snell, and then the hot hand between Glasnow, Robleski and Roki. So Robleski, healthy, doing his thing for the Dodgers. I know his peripherals look real shaky, but doing his thing for the Dodgers, helping them win. Could end up finding himself in the bullpen, but then he could be in the rotation because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
and again, that's my point. Baseball is so fluky.
Yeah,
It's
there's
so
still a lot of
fluky.
baseball to be played, and I think this is
There's
a part of
tons
the
of
baseball
baseball
that's like the most significant streak of the most significant for all teams. We're looking at this. I'm looking at the standings. All these standings are within reach for most of the teams that are competing to make the playoffs or make the World Series. There's not a lead that says, "Oh yeah, that's locked up." There's not a huge gap in between the teams that are like behind the first place Brewers or the first place Rays. It's all very jam packed. There's a lot that can happen, and we've been talking about the Dodgers so much right before the trade deadline. The Dodgers got swept by the Red Sox, or they go 2-1. I'm pretty sure they got swept by the Red Sox.
They got swept by Boston.
Yeah.
They just got swept by the Cubs.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so much that can happen with the rest of the season that we have no idea what it all is going to play out to be. The prospects could be bust for whatever the Tigers got. Like you said, the injuries are always a thing. There's so much that I'm not even willing to like entertain because we don't know what it's going to look like, and the season is just so long that even whatever you think you know during the regular season doesn't always translate to the playoffs. Just look at what the Yankees do every year. The regular season is amazing, and the playoffs just always come up short. So there's a lot that could be unfolded there. Ultimately, there's a lot of baseball to be played, and nothing that happened in the trade deadline is a defining stamp of certain what the trajectory is going to be moving forward. Now, moving on from just the Dodgers Skubal trade aspect of things, besides that move, I thought there was going to be more key players or more explosive trades that were going to happen, bigger packages that were going to happen across the league. There was a lot of the players that we had discussed last episode as most likely trade chips. A lot of those moves, a lot of those players got moved as expected. Now, the teams that we both talked about could be potential destinations. I don't think any of the ones that I said played out. I don't have notes on what you had written out, and any of those played out. But do you, JB, think were you expecting more out of the trade deadline? Did you think there was going to be more action going into the trade deadline itself? Because it seemed like it came and went, and there was a couple pieces that moved, but nothing too significant for me to say, "Oh wow, like I can't believe this kind of trade happened." Because there's always that kind of shocker trade, and the Skubal was a big move, but pretty much all of June, all of July, the entire league was saying he's probably getting traded to the Dodgers. Besides that, I didn't see anything that necessarily blew me out of the water.
Yeah, there wasn't. I didn't. There were no big. I think probably the biggest move that surprised me. I mean, outside of the shock that the Red Sox paid an intra-division price or an intra-division tax to get Adley Rutschman. Maybe Jose Soriano going to the Blue Jays. I thought that was a bit of a shocker. The Blue Jays obviously were selling, but then you look at Toronto. I think Toronto's MO, or not MO, but their way of thinking with this was, look, there's there's plenty of starting pitching out there. There's plenty of controllable starters that are out there. Why don't we go out there and maybe try to build our rotation for this season and then moving forward? They went and got Jose Soriano, which shocked me. I mean, I thought when that came down, I thought that this was going to be part of a 3-team trade because Arjun Namala was the top prospect going to the Angels. The Toronto, their number 2 prospect going to the Angels. I thought it might have been a 3-team deal because maybe the Angels traded Neto to another team. That was my frame of thought. But outside of that, I mean, there was nothing that really surprised me. I did not expect the likes of George Kirby or who's the other Seattle starter that they were floating around, Emerson Hancock. I wasn't expecting those guys to get moved. I wasn't even really expecting Reed Detmers to get moved. I know John Mosliak, the interim GM for the Angels, has already made it known he wants this job. He wants to remain in play for next season. And you can kind of see his mark on that, trading the likes of Logan O'Hop, Jose Soriano, Ryan Zefferjon, just trading these guys, these controllable guys, and Joe Adele, trading these guys in order to be able to bolster up that farm system for them. So kind of already going there. I will say the trade that led me into knowing that the Mariners are not trading any of either of Kirby or Hancock was when Luis Castillo went to the White Sox. The moment that happened, I was like, okay, I think all of that was smoke in order to try to get a team interested in trading for Luis Castillo. That DePoto's been trying to trade Castillo for the last 2-3 years now. The White Sox pulled the trigger on it. They get him, and I mean, they really get. They get two guys plus, the prospect in Boston Smith was really just the main player here. The Sir Anthony Dominguez was just to be able to offset some salary. But there's really nothing there that surprised me. What did surprise me was the inaction. What surprised me was the fact that the Brewers didn't do more.
Yeah.
And the one move that puzzles me, and I get it, depth is key when you're trying to make a run for the postseason. But when they went and got Bo Naylor, and in order to back up William Contreras, there was so many people within the industry saying, well, Gary Sanchez is available, a right-handed guy with some power who is a catcher. There were a lot, right-handed catchers were like a really big theme throughout this trade deadline. A lot of people thought that that Bo Naylor move was a setup for a Gary Sanchez trade. And then even immediately after they said, no, Gary's staying with us, I didn't buy it. I thought that was smoke and mirrors. It turns out it wasn't. It was the Brewers really trying to set themselves up just for depth purposes. And you look at the Brewers making those minor trades. When you look at the Braves, just a snooze fest for Atlanta, an absolute snooze fest.
That was something that actually surprised me too. A lot of the teams that are sitting at the top of the rankings, as far as not rankings, standings, the teams that are sitting on top of the standings almost seems like they took the approach of, well, we're doing pretty good. Why would we don't need more pieces. We like what we have. I thought more of these teams were going to be more aggressive, especially part of the domino effect of Skubal and the Dodgers kind of stacking up more as much like playing the hungry hippos approach that the Dodgers were. I thought more teams would be like, well, now we have to be aggressive too. We have to make some big splashes. There was none of that really happening where other teams were aggressive. There was some like surprise teams that I thought weren't going to necessarily move, but to your point, these top dogs in the MLB right now, they didn't necessarily do a knee-jerk reaction to what was going on across the league and say, well, now we have to get better. I think a lot of them sat back and said, we have something really good going. Why blow it up or why get rid of our future prospects to get better when we think we have good enough to compete right this year?
Yeah, it was an odd day for like I said, like you pointed to, it was an odd day for teams you thought would do more. And I thought the Yankees would do more. I know they shored up their outfield. They got Heliot Ramos from the Giants. They got Luis Garcia. The White Sox did okay.
I thought they were going to do more.
But compared to what Cleveland did, got Foster Griffin, got Joe Adele, and then you look at a team like the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks got Lars Nootbaar, but they weren't really able to shore up their pitching staff at all. And the reports came out that they were about to get Clay Holmes, but that got shut down because of some prospect reports. about maybe the medical reports were off with some of the prospects that they were offering for Clay Holmes. So New York shut that down. They pivoted to the Cubs. And by the time that happened, all the options that Arizona was looking at were gone.
Yeah.
AJ Preller did AJ Preller things. He traded from the barren cupboard that he has in order to bring in guys like Casey Mize and Robbie Ray. And so the Padres doing their thing didn't surprise me. The Dodgers doing their thing didn't surprise me. I was kind of thrown off with how aggressive Jed Hoyer was in trading guys like Moises Ballesteros, Mason McGuire, Jefferson Rojas in order to bring in rentals. I was very surprised by that. Moises and McGuire were traded for Zephyr John, and Zephyr John's controlled through 2030, so that wasn't for rentals. But Jefferson Rojas going to the Mets for Clay Holmes and for Tyrone Taylor, who I think Tyrone Taylor is a sneaky good pickup for the Cubs, or for any team really trying to make a push in the postseason. I was just surprised by how aggressive Jed Hoyer was with trading from the cupboard there. I will say, what are you going to say?
No, I was going to. So we've been kind of jumping around a little bit as far as teams and players that got moved. Let's bring the conversation more focused a little bit, and let's just talk about teams and their approach. I have a couple teams that for one reason or another, I was a little surprised as far as their approach to the trade deadline. So let's kind of hyper-focus the conversation a little bit. And you hinted at some of these teams already. I wasn't expecting the Padres to be in the buying phase at this trade deadline. Their season and their division, just how things are playing out, I thought maybe the Dodgers had established their dominance in that division so much that all the other teams are going to be like, well, we're not going to blow up our future to compete with the Dodgers. They're obviously all in on winning a championship this year. So I was surprised that the Padres were buying players instead of just kind of waiting it out, sitting tight where they had, or even maybe selling a couple of pieces. But no, they got a couple of pieces. They traded for some pitching. I thought that was a little surprising for me as seeing the landscape of where that division is sitting.
So for the Padres, I'm not surprised. So the Padres they're now 8-2 in their last 10. They're a game behind Arizona for that last wild card.
Yeah.
They went and got the pitching that they needed because they desperately need pitching. Now the offense, I think, will wake up eventually, but going to get guys like Robbie Ray and Casey Mize, being able to infuse those guys into their rotation, I think will be very helpful. And AJ Preller does AJ Preller things all the time. That for weeks leading up to the deadline, Mason Miller's available. Oh, what's that? Adrian Morejon, he's available too. And what happens? Neither one of them gets traded. And Preller, of course, trades from his barren cupboard to bring in guys like Robbie Ray and Casey Mize. Mm-hmm. That does not surprise me because AJ Preller lives on the edge of thinking if we can get in the playoffs, our roster will come to life. And
that is the mantra for the Padres. They bank on just making it in. They always bank on just making it in.
And look, why wouldn't you? Baseball's fluky.
Yeah.
All you got to do is get in. If you make the dance, you have a problem. You have an opportunity rather, in order to ask the hottest girl to dance with you. Okay, all you got to do is get to the dance.
Yeah,
that's it. And AJ Preller does that no matter what the season holds. He does that every single time.
Yeah. So moving on from just that team to a couple of other teams. So last episode I said, and I'm almost going to backtrack my what I said last week, but I said I have a feeling the Red Sox are going to be very aggressive with their trades. and what they're doing moving into September, October because of the way that their team was playing out. Now, this team was built more defensively, pitching, and then their offense was supposed to just kind of carry a little bit of that backload wherever there was deficiencies, and it ended up turning into the Red Sox have a pretty dang good offense since the All-Star break. So I said I thought they were going to be aggressive, but as the trade deadline came and went, I thought, are the Red Sox banking too much on what they've seen in the last 2 months and going a little too much in? Or is this truly something that they feel like they've built something across the board everywhere else really well, and they just felt like they just needed a couple more pieces to establish themselves as a really good team? I guess what I'm asking you is, do you think the Red Sox are buying too much into how the last 2 months went and were reacting to that with their trades and what they did at the trade deadline?
No, I think the Red Sox are absolutely taking advantage of the fact that the American League has been so bad.
Yeah,
It's been so bad for a few months now. It's the reason why the Red Sox were able to get as far as they were in the midst of that 15-game winning streak, and then being able to make ground. They are currently I'm looking at the standings. They are a game and a half behind the Yankees for the top wild card.
yep,
And they are 5.5 behind Tampa Bay for the number 1 seed.
Yep.
And if you for
the division lead,
the East, if you look at how the Red Sox are constructed, because they just won't lose, they will not lose. They just seem to not have the ability to lose. They're on the 7-game winning streak right now.
again,
They're 9-11-10. So they just can't lose. But if you look at if you look at what the Red Sox have done so far, they have done so well in being able to have that offense come to life. And I know them. So I'm going to take a moment to focus on Adley Rutschman. I know Rutschman. I know he's hurt. He's not supposed to come back till mid-August. I get it. He's been out since July 20th. I understand that. And people will say they traded so much in order to get Rutschman. Well, part of that is an intra-division tax. You always have to pay more in order to get a guy that your opponent, your rival, is going to have to face more throughout the season moving forward, as opposed to other teams. So yes, they did pay. Baltimore got a great price. Anthony Ianson is well worth the cover charge in order just to get into the door. So, but Rutschman is once he comes back, is going to be able to provide Boston for an above average defensive and offensive production from a position that's not very sexy. Now, we're going to look at it. People will look at his numbers. They'll sit there and say, "Oh, well, he's very mid in all these categories." You know what? He plays the hardest position in Major League Baseball. He plays the hardest position of the second hardest position in all of sports behind NFL quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're at least league average offensively, and if you're if you're above average offensively, if you're just above average defensively, that is a net positive for any team. Now, Adley is he's 2.5 years removed from that magical 23 season that he had, where he just had off the wall offensive numbers for a catcher. But if you look at the way that the Red Sox catching is constructed, it's disastrous. It's disastrous. There's a reason why. I believe in that trade, wasn't it Jake Rod? I think, yeah. Jake Rogers was included in that deal with Adley Rutschman, who you will notice is also a catcher.
Yep.
And that's because the Boston Red Sox catching situation is a disaster. So being able to go get probably, I talked about Gary Sanchez, but out of all the catchers available, if they're made available, why not go get an Adley Rushman? Why not? Go bring him in. He's probably going to be so just pumped up about the Boston Red Sox culture, what they're doing right now. The moment that he comes back healthy, inserted in that lineup behind the backstop, he is going. I honestly believe he's going to come to life. He's going to come to life, and he's absolutely going to transform this Red Sox lineup. And then they went and they traded Marcelo Meyer. I get it. Red Sox fans like, whoa, what? We traded Marcelo Meyer. Look, he has not panned out in Boston. He just hasn't. Okay, and it's a cautionary tale of a number one pick coming up, not really performing how you think they would. He gets traded to the Giants for a top for one of the top pitchers available in Eric Miller. I said at the beginning, or I said it in a couple episodes prior, that if the Red Sox want to continue this magical season, they're going to have to transform their offense. Done. They did that with Rushman. And they're going to have to transform their pitching staff. Done. They did that with Eric Miller. So, with that said, I think the Red Sox did exactly what they should. The Red Sox did what I thought the Yankees would do. I thought the Yankees would do more. I thought the Rays would do more.
Yep.
And honestly, look, nothing against the Rays. They got Freddie Peralta. Maybe someone in that system can actually transform Peralta. Freddie Peralta, a lot of people say, really benefited from those strikes high up in the zone. Now that we have ABS, those are balls now. And then they went and got Liam Hicks. This is a catcher that they have long coveted. They were able to get him. He's going to transform the offense for them in a way that they haven't really had an opportunity to see in that position this season. But what the Red Sox did, I do not disagree with. I think the Red Sox, even if they don't win the AL East, even if they're just the second wild card, I think this can be a dangerous team. It can absolutely be a dangerous team in the playoffs. A team, and look, it's not about who won the deadline. It's not about who has the best record. It's about who's hottest when the playoffs start. And maybe the Red Sox absolutely have maybe they peak before the end of September. I don't know, but nothing's telling me that they're gonna.
Yeah, they keep having these hot streaks, and they keep figuring out after they lose a game to go on to another winning streak. So there's a lot there. It's one of those like cautionary tales of like, don't trust what you're seeing in front of you just because you're seeing it in the moment. So that's why I wanted to kind of touch on that. Just very quickly, I thought personally the White Sox were going to go more all in on what kind of season they're having this year. But again, the cautionary tale of necessarily not fully buying into one season and kind of building the entire organization. I can't completely fault the White Sox for not doing more at the trade deadline, but it would be a foul for us to talk about baseball and not talk about our two fan base represented teams. So first off, let's start with your Cubs. Your Cubs, I think, did a lot. Your Cubs did a lot. You initially, when at the beginning of the episode, kind of said there was some trades you wish they would have done differently, but I think they made a lot of good moves as a whole. How do you feel about where the Cubs are in going into August after the trades that they did?
The Cubs did exactly what they were supposed to. They went into this deadline. They said, we want 3 pitchers, either 2 starters and a reliever, or 1 starter and 2 relievers. They got 2 starters, technically 3 with Braxton Miller, but he's out. They got 2 bona fide starters in Gausman and in Clay Holmes. 2 two-time All-Stars. Gausman, in his walk year, he's 35. He reinvented himself in Toronto. And so I absolutely believe he's going to do well in this Cubs rotation headlining it. You got Clay Holmes, who was doing well enough with the Mets in order for them to net a top prospect in return. And what I love most about both Gausman and Holmes is they induce soft contact, meaning that they're ground ball guys.
Yep.
And in front of the best defense in the it's inarguable. The inarguably best defense in Major League Baseball is only going to help improve their numbers, and it's going to help improve this rotation because I can guarantee you this: Gosman's going to eat innings. Clay Holmes will routinely get 6 innings, and then you get Ryan Zephyr-John, who is controlled through 2030, and they paid a hefty price for that. I mean, bravo, John Mosley. I forget the prospects you did in order to in trading Zephyr-Johns, but the Cubs did exactly what I thought they needed to do, and better yet, they were able to get a guy in Tyrone Taylor who can. It's not going to be a pure platoon with Ian Happ, but Ian Happ is struggling against left-handed pitching. He's not going to sit against every left-hander, but on most days against lefties, Tyrone Taylor will be out there, and so I think the Cubs did a fantastic job. And then this is also going back to earlier in the season when they went and traded for another Met starter in David Peterson, who has done nothing but help the Cubs rotation be sustained during this time. He's put up really good numbers for the Cubs rotation in his time there, and a lot of it has to do with the defense behind him. And I think the same is going to play out, like I said, for Gausman and for Holmes.
Yeah. So then the last team that we want to talk about is just touching base on my good old Yankees. So there was some areas of concern throughout the season that we thought they would address, or maybe I thought they would address. Part of it was pitching. You brought up the fact when we were talking in person about the fact that they needed to maybe trade for a catcher. I think you hinted at that last episode that maybe they needed to address the catching position. They ended up not trading the They ended up not addressing the catching position. They got Luis Garcia, which was, like you said, already paying dividends in the game. His offense is already showing that he's going to bring some fire to the offensive side of the field because he's getting doubles, he's getting home runs, he's getting game winners. Like he seems to have fit right into the Yankees organization. Now that the catching realm, the Ben Rice possibly moving into the catcher position, that's a possibility. I think the best thing that the Yankees did, and this is not shade whatsoever at the player as at the person, but the best thing that the Yankees did is that right after the trade deadline, they reassigned Volpe to the minor leagues, and then they brought up George Lombard Jr. to play that infield position. Now, I was initially a little disappointed with what the Yankees didn't do with the trade deadline, but looking at how Lombard Jr. is playing in that infield position and how Garcia is kind of adding a little bit more of that contact to the offensive side, I have to say I'm not discouraged by the moves that the Yankees did. Maybe they could have done a little bit more. Like I said earlier, they probably could have made a more aggressive pitch to get a Skubal on that pitching rotation, which would have been a really good rotation once all their pitching gets healthy and they start hitting a stride. But overall, I have to say I'm not completely displeased with what the Yankees are doing. They're trusting their prospects. They're doing call-ups in the positions that they know that they're struggling with. The Volpe thing is, again, no shade to Volpe as a player, as an individual, but he was struggling defensively, and I think the best thing to do was to put him back into the minor leagues and call up a player that seemed to be more ready for the moment going into August, September, going into October. And I think they did a really good job at trusting the prospects that they have in place. I don't know if you feel the same way or you think they could have done something a little bit different, but I'm not completely disillusioned by what the Yankees have put out going after the trade deadline, what they're putting out on the field. They seem to be trending in the right direction now that they have those pieces in place, and now that Aaron Judge is kind of potentially getting cleared to come back to the field.
Yeah, but like I mentioned again, so some teams are going to go out there and they're going to trade for guys. They're going to bring in those guys to maybe transform both the lineup, the rotation, and also the clubhouse Some teams see their injured starters coming back after the deadline as additions. And if
Yeah.
you look at just the Yankees as a whole, uh, these are the ones that are supposed to be coming back. Judge at some point August, maybe September. Stanton this month. Rodon possibly this month. Luis Heel possibly this month. So they have players coming back that could absolutely help transform this team and their production. And let's not forget the Yankees lineup went cold a week after Aaron Judge was just gone. After he was hurt, a week after, Yankees lineup just stopped working. And so maybe, and look, you can sit there and say, okay, well maybe it's just Aaron Judge and how he anchors that lineup. Yeah, that's true. That could be part of it. But it also could be guys like Anthony Volpe. He's not ready. He may never be ready. And he's in that lineup, and he's in there trying to help lift up the Yankees. And I didn't run the numbers or the stats to see how many opportunities Volpe came up in order to help give the Yankees the lead or to win a game offensively. I don't know. But it is a net positive to bring in guys, to call up prospects, to put in that position where you feel comfortable enough to say, sorry, man, you're just not cutting it. You can't be up here with us. We're trying to win here. Do I think the Yankees should have did more at catcher or anything at catcher? Yes, I do. I really believe they should have did something to shore up that position. But the Yankees believe in Austin Wells. They believe in what he provides defensively in order to be able to help this team win. So they're willing to eat whatever offensive production they will not get from Austin Wells. But the rotation is nails. The offense, when it's clicking, is one of the best in the majors. So it's not all lost for the Yankees. And I get Brian Cashman not wanting to trade his, from the farm system or to tear it down in order to bring guys in. I think getting guys like Luis Garcia, getting guys like Heliot Ramos into the door to be able to bring some depth to this lineup, I think is going to be very, very helpful, especially in the interim while you're waiting for your stars to come back.
Yeah, and I think I'm not saying Volpe was necessarily the problem with every defensive struggle that the Yankees were having, but I swear every time I was seeing some erroneous plays happening with the Yankees defense, somehow all I can see regularly it was that Volpe was somehow involved with that. And if it wasn't for the infield struggles that they consistently were having really the entire season, the defense wasn't necessarily at a bad place. The pitching has been a little streaky, but the infield almost made you hold your breath every time there was a ground ball, because it could easily be like a double play that somehow they just effed up and they couldn't pull it off. And always, I feel like every time that there was something like that happening, the Volpe was in the frame, or Volpe was in the frame of something happening on that regard. So the outfield wasn't necessarily a concern. The pitching was a little bit of a concern. The infield is now addressed. They removed Volpe because he wasn't necessarily ready. The catching, if you can live without your catching being an impact on your offense, and you can move past that and the rest of the team can pick up the slack, it's not necessarily the worst position to be in. I will say I am a little relieved that the Yankees didn't do the typical Yankee approach and kind of got rid of a lot of their prospects to bring in a rental that might or might not play out in the long run. So I'm a little relieved on that aspect, but I'm curious to see if this will all pay out at the end. Now, as we wrap up the specific teams and trades that have been happening, let's just very quickly just kind of touch on what the expectations are for the next 2 months, August, September, going into the race to October. How are you feeling? Is there a specific group of teams, a handful of teams that you're feeling good about going into the home stretch of the season, or is there something that you're holding your breath on, that you're thinking maybe the other shoe will drop, and this is not necessarily what you're seeing right now? Is there how are you feeling about these next 2 months of the season?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not going to say that there's going to be a lot of change within how the standings are right now. I'll say there's going to be some contention in the AL East. We'll see if actually Freddie Peralta actually transforms the rotation for Tampa, to see what Liam Hicks provides for this offense. The Tampa offense isn't really anything to really write home about, but it's really this pitching staff that you would like to be able to be solidified in order to see if they can be healthy and be productive in order to move forward. The Yankees, the Red Sox, really kind of see there. In the AL Central, the White Sox in Cleveland, I don't know what's going to happen, but one of the things that I think a team to watch out for, if the pitching starts to click, are the Minnesota Twins. They have one of the best offenses in baseball. I know that's shocking to people, but they have one of the top offenses in baseball, and they currently have a negative 36 run differential.
Mm-hmm.
That's how bad their pitching has been. And so I would really like to see if Minnesota could actually transform that, because even though they have a negative 36 run differential, they're only 4 games back of first place in the AL Central. So I think that's going to be a contentious thing. Maybe even seeing what the Tigers do. Whenever River Ryan comes up, how Troy Melton actually holds down that rotation, now that Mize and Skubal are gone. See how that offense produces. We really have no idea. The AL West, Astros, of course, are in first place. And for all those saying, hey, this is the year the Astros are done, just stop talking about that. Just stop. The more you keep saying it, the more they're going to keep coming back. They're like Beetlejuice. The more you say they're done, they're coming back to life. So just stop saying it. You
actually hinted at the one division that I wanted to ask you real quick. Can the White Sox truly... Are we delusional to think the White Sox actually, whatever they've put in their water, is sustainable going into the playoffs? Can the White Sox hang on in a division that seems to regularly every year be up for grabs going into the last game of the season? Are we buying into what the White Sox have been doing all season, that they're going to actually hold on to this lead in the AL Central and make the playoffs?
So with the White Sox, here's a quick 30-second, 30,000-foot overview about how the White Sox can win the AL Central. If they can get some pitching that can actually hold, if Luis Castillo can actually be the guy that they hope they can be, then yes, that'll help him. Because in Cleveland, their pitching is not necessarily the problem, it's the offense. The offense cannot score runs. They just cannot. And then with Minnesota, it's also the pitching. So if the White Sox move for Luis Castillo can actually prove to be something that can actually be something that's actually productive, then absolutely do it. They went and got Brenton Doyle to play outfield. Maybe he can contribute to the offense. We don't know. Remember, it's always tricky to see what a guy looks like when he leaves the confines of Coors Field. But if the pitching can improve, the White Sox have a chance, because this offense is productive. But if Cleveland's offense comes to life because of a guy like Joe Adell in the lineup, then watch out.
And what about on the National League? We have the Brewers, the Braves, and the Dodgers at the top of the standings. The Cubs are right behind them. And then we have the Phillies, which I thought were going to be more... They're not out of the race, but they're kind of falling behind a little bit. Is there a team that you're going to watch in this next 2 months that you're thinking they can make a push to the playoffs that maybe nobody's expecting? Or is this just Brewers, Braves, Dodgers, Cubs, kind of the going rotation of teams, and they're going to just switch placements going into the playoffs?
Yeah, the only division where I see a real move being made amongst a change at the top is in the NL Central. So the Cubs' biggest struggle, coming into this deadline was their starting pitching. Okay, let me put this in perspective. The Cubs have scored 592 runs.
Yeah.
They only have a plus 93 run differential. Now, I know that seems like a lot compared to other teams, but all that tells me is that their pitching has been horrendous. And so being able to solidify and to fortify rather, their rotation, fortify the bullpen, I think is going to do dividends. Now, what could hurt Milwaukee is if their pitching falls apart. Their pitching has what's really kind of kept them afloat. And if his arm falls off, if for some reason Drohan and Harrison and Henderson, if one of those guys falls off, then there could be real issues in Milwaukee. I don't know what Dustin May is going to provide for that rotation. Jojo Romero and Sanzatella, of course, are going to be in the bullpen. And I know Sanzatella really redefined his pitching repertoire this year in order to succeed in Colorado. I don't know what that's going to provide for Milwaukee's bullpen, but in the NL East, it's really going to come down to both the moves they made offensively and in the pitching. So offensively, Luis Ariz, he is like a duck out of water in this offense. This is a classic 3 true outcomes offense. It is home run, walk, or strikeout. That's it. That's what they do. Luis Ariz doesn't hit home runs. He doesn't walk, and he damn sure doesn't strike out. So he is the absolute epitome. I mean, he is the absolute opposite of what this Philly offense brings. So I don't know what that's going to do to them. I don't know what his arrival on defense is going to do, because now Bryce is back in the outfield because Luis Ariz plays second. Bryson Stott moved to third, and Alex Bohm is moving to first. So I don't know what this does to them defensively. I don't know if this wears down Bryce Harper. I know Bryce Harper said I'm willing to go to the outfield. Time will tell what this does to his legs, what maybe it does to his offense. I don't know. And then you get guys like Brooks Raley to go fortify the bullpen. We'll see what happens. But the Phillies pitching needs to step up if they stand a chance at being able to catch the Braves. I know the Braves, I just criticized them because it was crickets on that end. But the Braves are doing just fine right now. But time will tell to see if the Phillies actually catch up. And the Dodgers lost 6 straight. This is how bad it is in Dodgerland. They lost 6 straight. They still have an 8.5 game lead over the second place team. Dodgers are fine.
Yeah, they're fine. Lastly, JB, I would be remiss if I did not ask you if addition by subtraction is the way to go. Do the Mets make up ground with the 11.5 game? They're 11.5 games back from the last wild card spot. Do the Mets make a run to the last wild card spot by trading away all their pieces with that massive, expensive roster that they had in New York on the other side of the Yankees?
No, the Mets are the lonely guy on Tinder who said, "Ooh, some hot chick paid attention to me. Maybe there's something there," but he still has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys ahead of him in order to really to shoot his shot with the hot girl. I don't think the Mets are really doing anything. There's no miracle running here. There's no miracle netting happening. The greatest miracle about the Mets is that out of all the money they spend, they still don't win. That's the greatest miracle about this team from Queens.
They won 2 games in a row, so you never know what could happen with 2 months left in the season. You just never know, JB. 11 and a half games behind the last wild card spot is not an insurmountable lead to look up into the future forecast. JB,
You know what? I could be wrong. Yes.
we are done. What were you drinking? What were you smoking?
I was drinking a High West Barai,
Nice.
and I was smoking a Casa Carrillo by Perez Carrillo.
Nice.
Is a box press. Manny, what were you drinking?
The good old Traveler bottle. Mixed
Nice.
whiskey.
There you go.
I had to run it back. It's very good. As you can tell, the bottle is kind of going pretty fast. 2 episodes and it's half gone, so I'm gonna have to restock again. But it's very enjoyable still. I might have to make it a regular in the bar shelf to make sure that I have a stock of this. JB, we're done. People need to interact, react, like, follow. Where can they do all of the above items?
Yes, to like, follow, throw spears, and stone us. You can find full episodes of your Box Scores of Bourbon podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and additional content at BSB Sports 24 on the TikTok, Instagram, and X. And until next time, folks, stay thirsty.
Cheers, everyone.